Which quarterback has the best chance of a meteoric rise in the vein of Joe Burrow or, more recently, Kenny Pickett, that has them going from an afterthought to a front runner in the Heisman Trophy voting and potentially the first quarterback taken in next year's draft? Love the show.
The last part of that, I don't think that exists.
Oh, there's not a quarterback that you think is going to all of a sudden become
the first pick.
round?
Okay. I think a Kenny Pickett late first round, maybe. And I even think that's really hard to find.
Yeah, like Kenny Pickett only becomes the first QB taken because it was a terrible QB class. I don't see anybody being able to do it in a QB class that's going to have Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, etc. in it. But I do think there are guys who are candidates to have breakout years. I wrote about it last month, and the way I approach it, like, it's not just a guy who's going to have a big year after not being great. I look at Kenny Pickett's situation as a guy who played for like 4 years. And he wasn't bad, but he was what we call the Jag Plus type of guy, where he was good. He just wasn't the kind of guy you're sitting there expecting to be a Heisman finalist or put up huge numbers. You just kind of a game manager type who suddenly explodes on the scene. So for me, if I'm going off of those parameters, the obvious choice in my mind is Sean Clifford, because he's been a starter for a few years, has put up good but not great numbers. And as I went over and when I wrote about it, he's coming back to Penn State. They lose Jahan Dotson, yes, but they're adding a terrific running back in the recruiting class who's going to help bring us a running game that they haven't had in a few years. Parker Washington is a good receiver. He's in an offense for the second straight year for the first time in his career. And I think one thing that you overlook with Joe Burrow and Kenny Pickett is, what else did they have in common? They had new play callers come in, change the offenses that they played in. Joe Brady helped Joe Burrow have that season. Last year, Mark Whipple helped Kenny Pickett have that season. This year, Mike Yurcich, in his second season in a familiar offense, might be able to help Sean Clifford take that step forward offensively. And I think that he's the best one, but I do think there are other options. What do you guys think?
I think it's funny because I'm going to throw Jordan, our producer today, under the bus. He chimed in with Hendon Hooker.
Hendon Hooker just had a huge season.
That's my point. I'm like, he should not be there. That's too easy. That's not an average quarterback elevating to greatness. I think he's already really, really good, and he could elevate to greatness by another year. He could be a first round pick. So I think the question is very unique, because I think it has to be like a Sean Clifford, where you go, what are you talking about, Tom? There's no way he's going to be a top 15 pick or a first round pick, but it actually happens. That's why I think Sean Clifford is a really good one. I think like Bo Nix. Like, it was okay. Maybe he goes to Oregon, new life, balls out, because he's against lesser competition and plays his way into a job. I looked also in the Pac-12 at a guy like DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's been a multi-year starter, played a lot better last year, but nobody really paid attention to it. But if UCLA puts together a nice, if some things come together and they get 9 or 10 wins, maybe they beat USC, I think he would be like the type of guy we're talking about, where no one's projecting him as a first round pick. No one's projecting him in the draft, but a lot of playing time, and just kind of, if he takes that next step, it could be whoa, where did that guy come from?
So 2 of my 3 are also transfers, which means that you're getting a new play caller, Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
I think that Dylan Gabriel
might be in the Hendon Hooker category
already. Yeah.
But
he's had his season at UCF was phenomenal, his freshman year.
You're coming back from injury. When you scout these quarterbacks, he is not an afterthought, but he is an, oh yeah, that guy kind of response. The other one that I had, another transfer, Keaton Slovis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if
the guy who replaces Pickett becomes the new Pickett.
Yeah, Slovis at his best at USC was very, very good. He's got a lot of experience, and if he can put it all together, then I think you could see him do it. And then the third one I had on here, Sam Hartman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he'll go to number 1.
But he's already put up great numbers.
I think he's an afterthought.
Yeah, I'll give you one. And shout out, and this is a little bit of a homer pick, but this is one where you guys would be like, you're crazy. Shout out the Blue Chicken who put him in the chat. Jordan Travis at Florida State. And I am not projecting this, but the similarities for Joe Burrow would be back end of the season played a lot. Like when Joe Burrow first got to LSU, it was really shaky, didn't play. And then he you talked to him, he's like, I started to feel better towards the back end of that first season. Jordan Travis, last 5 or 6 games for Florida State, stopped turning the ball over, protected it better. Running and passing stats combined were pretty impressive. I don't think he's a first-round talent as a thrower, but I think as a put it together, and this is what Florida State fans are, praying for every night, is that he does put it together. I think he could be somebody that if it all comes together, he could burst on the scene.
Yeah, and in the thing I wrote last month, I had 5 guys. I had Clifford and Chip, like you. I had Kadon Slovis and Sam Hartman. 2 other guys I think that can fit this category. Spencer Sanders.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Tanner Morgan.
Another good one.
Jordan pointed out in our private chat, somebody, shout out Coca. JT Daniels could fit this mold as somebody who breaks free and has a big season. There are guys. There's plenty of viable candidates. It's just, I think the odds of any of them doing it are pretty low.
Agreed. Which is why they should be low. That's why we're talking. Like, that's why it fits this topic perfectly. Because last year, if any one of us was said Kenny Pickett, be like, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett's all right.
Well,
yeah.
Barton was yelling it for like 3 years, but so
that's impressive.
He was more in on Addison.
I know. But Barton always liked Kenny Pickett though.
He always liked it. That's pause. Yeah. Gloves.